Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a brand new sponsor. It's the Opportunist podcast from Cast Media. They sent me this awesome box, which I'm about to open. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about the podcast, and then I'll get into this box, which looks amazing. So, from Cast Media, The Opportunist is a new podcast that tells true stories of regular people who turn sinister simply by embracing opportunity. Their first series follows Sherry Schreiner, a Midwest mom turned internet cult leader. Wow. She gained thousands of followers online by predicting the end of the world and promoting conspiracy theories. As she became an infallible goddess to her followers, she left a trail of death and destruction in her wake. Uh, that sounds absolutely amazing. I can't wait to listen to this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Cast Media's new podcast, The Opportunist, wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, so without any further ado, let's get opening this gift. Uh, they even got cool wrapping paper, so... Okay. Fancy new box. Good box. So this is that first thing is the description. Carry this organ with you to protect yourself from Italian clones, chemtrails, and evil energies. Keep fighting, warriors. Ya bless is the message I got in there. So, and what do we got? Oh my goodness. Oh, there goes their lovely wrapping paper. We're going to try and keep this in frame. Oh, that's actually quite beautiful. All right, so it's called Orgon. Okay, it is. Wow, that's quite lovely. I'm sure it has something to do with the podcast. I can't wait to listen to the podcast and find out what it really means. You should do too. You can find the Opportunist podcast. It's coming out. It should be available now. So check it out wherever you can listen to podcasts. It's going to be available. And this is going to be the next thing that your friends all talk about. So get on board now so you look cool. At the end of this video, we'll have a trailer for The Opportunist, so check that out. But without any further delay, here's today's video. Number 3, Cheyenne Antoine. In March 2015, 18-year-old Brittany Gargle lived in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Gargle had a troubled childhood, but she was trying to get her life back on track. She was working on getting her grade 12 diploma. She was also working part-time at a pizza place. She had recently reunited with her biological father, and she was getting to know his family. On the morning of March 25, 2015, Brittany Gargle's body was found lying on the side of the road that led to a garbage dump on the city's outskirts. The man who found her said she was cold to the touch. Sadly, 18-year-old Brittany Gargle was later pronounced dead. The police determined that she had been beaten and strangled. The medical examiner thought she had been strangled to death with a woman's belt that was found close to her body. While investigating Gargle's murder, the police looked at her social media profiles. Hours before Gargle died, she made this photo her Facebook profile picture. Gargle is on the right side of the photo, and next to her is one of her best friends, 18-year-old Cheyenne Antoine. Hours after the photo was posted, around the same time that Gargle's body was found, Antoine wrote the following message on Gargle's Facebook wall. "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe." The police decided to talk to Cheyenne Antoine. Antoine said that on the night Gargle was killed, they were drinking together. They went to a house party and a few bars. Antoine said that at around 4 a.m., Gargle met a guy in the parking lot of a bar. She said that Gargle left with the man, and that was the last time she saw her alive. Antoine said that after she split up with Gargle, she met up with her uncle and they went for a walk along the river. The police talked to Antoine's uncle and he confirmed her alibi. The police then set to work trying to determine what Brittany Gargle did on the last night of her life. The police watched the surveillance footage from the bar where Antoine said that Gargle went off with the guy. They did not see Antoine or Gargle on the footage, nor did they see the car they were supposedly driving. The police decided to confront Antoine's uncle. He admitted that he did not see his niece that night. She told him that she and Gargle were partying with two guys in a hotel room, and then there was an argument about cocaine. She said she found Gargle unresponsive in a bed and there were markings on her neck. Antoine said that one of the men pulled out a gun and told her that she had to help them or they would kill her as well. A few weeks after the murder, a member of Brittany Gargle's family got in contact with the police. They said that a young woman had come to them with a shocking story. The young woman told them that on the night Gargle died, Antoine showed up at her home. Antoine was hysterical, and she said that she struck Gargle with an object and choked her. The young woman looked out at Antoine's car and saw Gargle inside the car, leaning up against a window. It was apparent that she had been beaten. Antoine then got in the car and left with Gargle. After talking to Gargle's family member, the police then approached the young woman. At first, she was hesitant to talk to the police, but then she admitted that the story she told Gargle's family was true. The police continued to investigate Cheyenne Antoine to see if they could definitively link her to the murder. On September 10, 2015, nearly 6 months after the murder, Cheyenne Antoine posted a comment on the photo that was taken hours before Gargle was killed. She wrote about how much she missed Gargle. The police got a sample of Antoine's DNA. Then they had the belt found near Gargle's body, which the police thought was the murder weapon, tested for DNA. Both Antoine's and Gargle's DNA was on the belt. At some point, the police realized that in the selfie Antoine took on the night Gargle was murdered, Antoine was wearing the belt. In March 2017, 2 years after the murder, Cheyenne Antoine was charged with second-degree murder. She initially denied killing her friend, but she eventually confessed. Antoine said they had been drinking and smoking marijuana. She said they got into an argument and she ended up killing Gargle. Antoine claims that she doesn't remember what they were fighting about or the actual murder. In January 2018, Cheyenne Antoine pleaded guilty to manslaughter. She was sentenced to 7 years of prison. Antoine's lawyer said that her client has always maintained that she doesn't remember the murder or the motive. So the public, including Brittany Gargle's family, may never know why she was killed. Number 2. Frederick Miller. In August 2014, Frederick Roy Miller was 38 years old and he lived in Landover, Maryland. Miller was a disabled Marine veteran who had worked at Verizon as a technician. But that August, he was unemployed. Miller had one daughter, Layla, who was 3.5 years old. About 6 months after Layla was born, Miller and Layla's mother split up. Layla lived with her mother, maternal grandfather, and great-grandmother in a nice neighborhood in Camp Springs, Maryland. For years, Miller and Layla's mother were involved in an ugly child custody dispute. Every time they had a court hearing, the judge decided that Layla's mother should have custody. Miller had weekend visitation rights, but then it got changed to restricted supervised visits. Miller did not feel like he had enough access to his daughter, so he tried to get help from members of Congress and Veterans Affairs. But he felt like he wasn't getting any help from anyone. Miller's ex had requested several protective orders against him. Also, Layla's great-grandmother had filed a destruction of property complaint against Miller in December 2012. But the police had never been called because of a domestic dispute involving Miller. In November 2013, a court ruled that Layla's mother had to pay Miller $11,000 because she had been overpaid in child support from Miller's disability pension. On the afternoon of August 16, 2014, 38-year-old Frederick Miller went over to his ex's home. His ex was not there at the time, but her father was outside. Miller shot him and then went inside. He then shot his ex's grandmother. Afterward, he picked up his 3.5-year-old daughter, Layla, and carried her to the car. He then got into the car and drove off. While driving, Miller took this selfie of himself and his only daughter. He then sent the photo to several friends and family members. A neighbor had witnessed the shooting and called 911. Officers descended on the area and they located Miller's car. He refused to pull over. While trying to avoid being pulled over, he lost a tire. Miller then started firing at the police officers. After firing a few shots, he started driving again. A short distance away, he stopped again and started shooting at the police officers. 6 police officers returned fire and Miller was fatally shot. No police officers were wounded in the shootout. When the officers got to the car, they discovered that 3.5-year-old Layla had been shot and her throat had been slit. She was rushed to the hospital, but sadly, she was pronounced dead. Layla's grandfather and great-grandmother were taken to the hospital and were in critical condition, but they ultimately survived. Layla's mother was not home at the time of the shooting, and she was found unharmed. At first, the police officers were worried that they had shot Layla, but the medical examiner concluded that the bullet that Layla was shot with was not consistent with the ammunition the police fired. A bloody knife was also found in the car. The medical examiner concluded that 38-year-old Frederick Miller had killed his daughter. No one knows why Miller decided to kill Layla and shoot her grandfather and great-grandmother. Since he is dead, no one will probably ever know why he committed these horrible acts. For the friends and family of Miller and Layla, the last selfie that Miller took will be a haunting memory of that horrifying day. Number 1. Bashid McLean. Around 5 a.m. on February 26, 2013, a man and his 12-year-old son were walking their dog in Morrisania, which is a residential neighborhood in the Bronx, New York. The man found a suitcase in a pile of trash, and he decided to take it to a nearby park. He could tell something was inside the suitcase, and he thought it might be valuable. He was shocked when he opened it. Inside the suitcase was a pair of human hands and a shoulder. The man immediately called the police. The police searched the area close to where the body parts were found. In 4 different spots, all along the same block, they found more dismembered body parts. They were in garbage bags and suitcases. It was the body of a woman who was in her mid-40s. The medical examiner would later determine she died from a stab wound to the neck and then she was dismembered with an electric saw. It did not take long for the police to identify the remains. A 23-year-old man named Bashid McLean had called to report his 45-year-old mother, Tanya Bird, missing. Bird worked as a home health aide. She lived with McLean and her other younger son in an apartment that was about half a mile from where the body parts were found. The police were aware of Bashid McLean because he had been arrested 21 times. This included assaulting 2 police officers in 2010. McLean was also known to set fires. McLean had been hospitalized several times in psychiatric hospitals. He was diagnosed with depression and schizophrenia, and he was supposed to be taking medication. When the police got to the family's apartment, they noticed some suspicious things. For example, there was a box for an electric saw. Also, they noticed blood that someone had tried to clean up. The police brought McLean into the police station and they questioned him. They looked through his phone and they found 2 deeply disturbing photos. One was this image, which is a selfie McLean took. Behind that black spot is his mother's severed head, which McLean is holding up by the hair. Another photo was an electric saw resting on her severed torso. The police questioned Bashid McLean, and he denied committing the murder. He blamed it on his friend, 26-year-old William Harris. McLean admitted to the police that he dismembered his mother's body. He said he did it because Harris had threatened to kill his younger brother, who was asleep in a bedroom when Bird was killed. The detectives asked McLean if he cared that his friend killed his mother. He said, "No, not really. People die all the time." He later said, "At the end of the day, you die either way. That's the only thing you're promised, to die. You live to die." He then said, if I didn't chop her up, someone else would have. If he didn't kill her, someone else would have." When McLean was asked why he dismembered the body, he mocked his friend. He said, "If you kill someone, you should be able to cut them up too. If you can't do that, if you don't have the stomach to cut them up, then you're a coward." The police then talked to William Harris. He swore that he didn't kill Tanya Bird. He said that McLean had told him to come over. When he got there, Bird was already dead. He said that McLean yelled at him and ordered him to help dismember the body. Harris said that he was terrified of McLean and he thought if he didn't help him, he would be murdered too. So he helped dismember and dispose of the body. The police talked to family members of Tanya Bird. They said that McLean definitely killed Bird, and they weren't surprised that he was able to force his friend to help him dismember and dispose of the body out of fear for his own life. They think that Bird was planning on kicking out McLean because she believed that McLean was abusing her youngest son. There was a fight, and McLean stabbed her and then dismembered her. Bashid McLean was charged with a slew of different charges, including murder. At a arraignment hearing at the end of February 2013, McLean wore a garbage bag. The court staff gave him the garbage bag to wear because he kept urinating in his pants. Bashid McLean went to trial in October 2016. His lawyer argued that he was clearly mentally ill, therefore he was not guilty by reason of insanity. The prosecution argued that since McLean tried to cover up the crime, it showed that he knew what he was doing was wrong. The trial lasted nearly a month. He was found guilty and he was sentenced to 25 years to life. William Harris was charged with unlawful dissection of a human body and hindering the prosecution. He was eventually sentenced to 5 months in jail. If this story was not depressing enough, there's one more tragic element to it. Before Bashid McLean murdered his mother, he was married to a woman whom he met in a group home. The marriage didn't last, but it did produce a son named Zamir. After the murder, the woman changed her name to Zara Coombs. Coombs had some serious mental health problems. On January 25, 2017, Coombs' boyfriend called the police. He had come home and found 4-year-old Zamir unresponsive. The son of McLean and Coombs was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Zara Coombs eventually confessed to beating him to death with a broom handle after he dropped an egg. In May 2018, Zara Coombs pleaded guilty to manslaughter and she was sentenced to 17 years in prison. Bashid McLean's family found the situation sadly ironic. McLean was a son who killed his mother, and his ex-wife was a mother who killed her and McLean's son. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And now, here's a trailer for Cast Media's new podcast, The Opportunist.
911, what is your emergency?
My boyfriend, he had a gun, and he told me, you press this trigger. Oh my God, he's dead. This is a nightmare, please. This
Okay,
isn't
please
real.
calm down. What is your name?
My name is Barbara Rogers.
Woman who claims her boyfriend wanted her to kill him because of problems with an online cult pleaded not guilty today in the Poconos.
Sherry Schreiner was an ordinary woman who believed the world was ending and that she had the key to salvation. She created an army of warriors to fight beside her in the spiritual battle between God and Satan, which ultimately resulted in murder, suicide, and mind control.
How does a poor woman in a cow town with practically nothing inspire mankind to stand up against the strongholds of Satan to the point where he is burning out of the skies?
What would it take for a regular person, someone like you or me, to turn into a maniacal cult leader with no regard for human life?
We did it, folks. We did it.
From Cast Media, this is The Opportunist, a podcast about regular people who turn sinister simply by embracing opportunity.
Be sure to subscribe to Cast Media's new podcast, The Opportunist, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Also, please check out the criminally listed podcast, Into the Killing. In each episode, we look at cold cases that were eventually solved. In this week's episode, we take a look at the convoluted murder case of Angie Dodge. You can find Into the Killing wherever you find great podcasts. Thank you again for watching.